Hey there. Welcome to episode 77 of Toy Talk with Mike and Chad.
I'm Mike.
I'm Chad. And the toys we'll be talking about today is kind of a little bit of a.
What's our best of the year?
It's our best of the year. I actually had quite a bit of difficulty this year making up the list because there were so many good toys.
I know.
Very G.I. Joe classified heavy year. So I spent a lot of time looking through what I had and making some tough choices, as I'm sure you did, with your best of each quarter. And, that's coming around the corner for all our loyal viewers.
Yep. So for those of you who are regulars to the channel, I buy a lot of figures. So rather than try and sort through them all at the end of the year to figure out my top 20, I do quarterly videos. So everything I buy in a particular quarter, I whittle it down to about 15 or 20 figures, and then those guys advance to a final video, which I just posted earlier today. So if you're all caught up, there should have been all 4 quarter videos, and then a video called The Best of 2024, The Final 20, in which case I whittled down all my figures from the first 4 quarters down to a top 20, but I did not rank them. I just kind of said, these are the 20. So in this video here, I will list them from 20 to number 1, my very best figure of the year. And what did you compile? Did you do a top 20 or top 10?
I did a top 10.
Top 10?
I probably could have done a top 20, but even then, it would have been super G.I. Joe classified heavy. Like, my toy collecting kind of went through a whirlwind this year because I was off work for a couple months with an ankle break and couldn't buy stuff. And then, getting back on top of everything and even finding time and money to spend on new figures. And then I bought the business. So, I really had to kind of rein it in there in the last quarter. But there were some great figures, and I was challenged by my top 10 this year.
It was a strong year of toys. After we do our top 10 video, we're going to shoot another video for our kind of year in review. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk more about numbers of toys and, things like you breaking your ankle and trends and ups and downs and buying and all that sort of stuff. This one here, we'll try and keep focused to our best of the year list. And it was very, very tough. I had a few hundred figures, and to try to whittle it down to 20, it's tough to do.
It's tough to do.
And not that anybody cares. These are just our opinions. They don't mean anything. But, I take it seriously when I'm doing my lists. And it's tough.
I like to think they mean something to the people that watch us on a regular basis. But.
Yeah. All right. So where I did my top 20, do you want me to just go through my first 10 before, and then we'll go through it?
Yeah, you do your first 10, and then I'll do, because mine won't take as long as yours.
All right. So if you watched my last video, again, I just posted it this morning, but it'll probably be a few days before I post this video. I'll probably post this either on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. So yeah, where are they? So for number 20, it was one of my brand new toys that I just got for Christmas, and that was King Ghidorah from Hiya Toys. Now, you're looking at him right now. He's over here on my desk, looking pretty glorious.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe if I fiddled around with him a little bit more, maybe he would have ranked higher, but I didn't have much time between when I opened him to when I did my list. And he's very cool. I've always wanted a big, posable King Ghidorah figure because I have a few King Ghidorahs in my collection, but they're usually small little vinyl figures. I have a couple of the Super 7 reaction figures, and they're only a couple of points of articulation. This guy is loaded with articulation. It looks like he's got about 5 or 6 points in each neck. Then his legs, he's got multiple points. His tail, he's got multiple points. His wings can break apart so that they can be folded over so he can kind of walk like Batwing style, which I haven't quite perfected yet. But it's very, very, very cool. I think the problem with it is it's almost too functional in that, like, I try to imagine, like, if I had this toy as a kid, would I love playing with it? And I don't know that I would, because for one, he's sharp. He's got a lot of little spikes on him. So when you handle him, and when I'm trying to like pose his wings and stuff, I find my hands hurt from messing with him. Plus, he feels a little brittle. I don't know if he would have lasted very long in my childhood hands because his wings are thin. Not to say he's bad quality, but he's delicate. So yeah, he's a very cool figure, but he's just he's difficult to handle. There's a lot of articulation. And so for that reason, I put him kind of at the bottom of my best of the year list. But that's still a pretty, the fact that he made my top 20 speaks highly of him. So
I mean, that's a solid figure. I was impressed when I came into the room a couple minutes ago and saw it because you sent me the original picture, and you can never tell whether it's zoomed in or not. And like, that is an impressive size.
He's bigger than I thought he was going to be because when I got the box under the Christmas tree, it's a big ass box. But I figured, I'm like, I bet the actual dragon is going to be small, and most of the package is going to be for his big wings. Mm-hmm. But he's pretty big anyway, just like his trunk is pretty big. And then he's got these massive wings that fold out. So yeah, very cool figure. So he's my number 20. Okay, so my number 19. It just took me like 3 minutes on my phone to find. I had this list posted somewhere, but I have so many notepads on my phone. I lost it. All right, so 20 was King Ghidorah. Number 19. And this was a tough one, but it was Namorita from Marvel Legends. Now, I don't imagine this figure will be on too many best of the year lists. Partly because she came out very early in the year. I got her in January. And also, she's not like a super popular character. And the toy itself is nothing really special. It's pretty basic female body. She's just wearing a bathing suit, so there's no real sculpted detail. It's just a bathing suit painted on her. This really comes down to character for me. I really liked the New Warriors comic book when it first came out, and my favorite member of the team was Namorita. So I've always wanted an action figure of her from way back when I was a kid, and this is the first ever action figure of her in any format. So there was a couple other Marvel Legends that were just on the cusp, like Jack-O-Lantern is one of my favorite Marvel Legends. He came out this year. He could have been in this spot. And even though it's the best Jack-O-Lantern we ever got, I do have 4 or 5 other Jack-O-Lanterns in my collection. Another figure that almost made my list was Crystar, the Crystal Warrior. Mm-hmm. And I convinced myself not to put him on the list just because they came out. I got them very, very early in 2024, but some people got them late in 2023. And Crystar was on a lot of best of lists last year, and I felt like it would feel a little dated on my list. Although I only realized after I finalized my list that Namorita came out in the exact same wave as Crystar. So maybe I shouldn't have booted Crystar out because he is a great figure too. But anyway, for Namorita, I just think she's Namorita, great character, a very good figure, even if it's kind of basic. And that's why she's my number 19. All right, number 18 is Bludgeon from Transformers. So this is the green and yellow version based on how he appears in the IDW comic books. It's a very cool Transformer mold. I like the size of him. I like the posability of him. It's the 3rd time I've gotten that sculpt. Last year, I got Bludgeon in different colors, his kind of classic colors. And I also got Tarn on the same sculpt. Tarn made my best of the year last year. So I think that's what held Bludgeon back this year and why he's kind of pretty low on the list. It's just because I already gave props to this exact figure with slightly different tooling and different colors last year. So it's a bit of a repeat, and that's why he's kind of only at number 18. But it's an awesome figure. And if you have any thoughts on any of these guys, let me know.
I'll jump in, yeah.
Number 17, when I first ordered this guy, I thought this one had a shot for my best of the year list. But as we talked about recently, we did a video where I reviewed it. This is my Sleepwalker from the Operation Monster Force figures. It looks super cool. He's got this kind of like Nazi aesthetic. He's based on an old UK Action Force figure called the Red Shadow Trooper. And he's very, very cool. Except for whatever reason, my guy's arm just pops out of the socket.
Yeah, that's really annoying, especially when you're paying a premium for these nice toys, and it's an independent company. You kind of want to support them, and then, I think we're going to be talking about some of that in the next episode, like hit or misses
Yeah.
in 2024, so I won't say too much on that now. But
And I don't want to knock. So it's Fresh Monkey Fiction
Mhm.
made this toy, and I think they've been making toys for a couple of years.
A good job.
Their stuff is improving drastically. These are very cool figures, and I've seen a couple other reviews online. Nobody else has mentioned anything about the arm sockets, so maybe it's just an isolated incident. But I couldn't, with a clear conscience, put it up at my number 1 or 2 spot when, as soon as you like touch him, his arm just falls out of his socket. It's just, and if I had 5 or 6 other figures, I could say this one is an anomaly, but he's the only one I have, so I don't know. But anyway, it's still a fantastic looking figure. I don't really play with my toys, so yeah, he just goes on my shelf. And now that he's on the shelf, he looks great up there.
So if his arm was not having those issues, do you think he would have placed higher on the list?
He would have placed higher on the list because he looks very cool, and it's also the fact that he is from a new toy line, from a new company. I like to try and give them as much props as possible. So yeah, the fact that I kept him on my list, even with his shitty wobbly arm, speaks to the quality of the figure otherwise, because it was great otherwise.
Okay.
All right, number 16. This is kind of a simple figure compared to other ones on my list, but it's Reptilax from Masters of the Universe.
Is that the classic?
He's from Origins. It's the first ever figure of this guy. He's a snake man, but he looks more like a lizard. He's got a lizard tail, and he's got an orange body and a green head. He's weird, and that's partly what I love about him. As soon as I got him, I was like, this guy's super weird. It doesn't make any sense why he's all these different colors and why he's considered a snake when he's clearly a lizard. But yeah, I just thought he was super cool. And yeah, he hung on there right till the end. So he came in at number 16. Number 15. This was another figure I had no doubt would be on my list as soon as I got it. I just didn't know how high he would rank. I'm a little surprised he's this low, but it's Big Boa from G.I. Joe Classified. I just love the look of that figure. Yeah, he's got the boxing gloves. He's bare-chested with these weird, bondage, like studded suspenders and the weird helmet. He's just bizarre. Plus, it's the first time we've ever got an unmasked head. I loved Big Boa. So, yeah, I'm tempted to ask you if you made your list, but I guess I'll find out soon enough.
You'll find out soon enough. I can give you a spoiler alert. He was an honorable mention.
Okay, honorable mention.
He did not make the list, but it was very close.
Well, you only did the top 10. He would have been an honorable mention for me too if I didn't do top 20. So, number 14 was Angel from Marvel Legends. That's him up there. He's right across from us now. Which, by the way, I hope you're impressed. I did my best of the year video yesterday, so I had action figures everywhere. It was such a mess because I had to haul out 100 figures. Yeah. Anyway, I put them all away. This room is looking pretty clean right now.
It's looking probably the cleanest I've seen it in a year.
Yeah, most of the toys are put away. So even the ones that I did my best of the year list, and I did a little photo shoot with them, so I can put them on Instagram later and everything. But they're all put away. So Angel's back on his shelf over there. But yeah, that's Angel from the X-Men. He's just a character. He's had so many different looks over the years. I haven't had a good Angel in my collection
until him,
and he was in the exact costume I wanted to see him in. I think his wings work perfectly. They look beautiful. The sculpting and everything on them, they work really well with kind of ratchet joints. They hold he's not top heavy. He can still stand even with his wings fully out. It's a very cool figure.
Now, we go through a lot of toys on here. Was that the second or third quarter? I want to say second.
I think. Yeah, he's great. Number 13. This is another figure I loved. As soon as I saw that it was going up for pre-order, I was like, I gotta get that. But it's the Blazing Godzilla. It's right here behind me, this bright orange thing. It's a translucent orange Godzilla. That's all it is. It's not really based on anything. I love weird paint jobs like that. I have a lot of Godzillas in my collection, so when I see something interesting like this, bright translucent orange, it just speaks to me. And I love that figure anyway, because it's basically the same figure as the other Ultimate Godzilla, which I think was my number 2 last year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same with that Bludgeon Turn figure. that Blazing Godzilla would have been way higher on my list if I hadn't already kind of recognized it last year. This is really just a repaint of a toy I already have, but it's such a good repaint that it warranted making my best of the year list again. Number 12. This is one that's, I kind of thought he would be higher, but this is Anubis.
Oh, okay.
So he is the Egyptian god. He came in from the Four Horsemen Studios, made him. He's not really part of their Mythic Legions line. He's part of a subline they have called Figura Obscura. Mm-hmm. So they released him in a 2-pack with Bastet.
Yeah.
I gravitate more towards Anubis than Bastet. He's very cool. He came with a ton of accessories.
The sarcophagus.
He came with not a sarcophagus, I don't think. He came with like the dog statue on, and he came with a bunch of like canopic jars. He came with came with a ton of stuff. I do have a sarcophagus that I bought from NECA.
From NECA, right?
And that's displayed on the same shelf.
Yeah.
So that why I might confuse you that. But I think the reason he didn't rank higher is Four Horsemen makes great quality figures, but they do feel a little delicate. I'm reluctant to change his head and his hands because the pegs feel like you really got to take the heater to them, like the hair dryer, and they just feel a little delicate. I did break the figure right out of the box.
Yeah.
One of the accessories, so not the figure itself, but just goes to show how the type of plastic they use. It's hard plastic. It's delicate. So he looks incredible, but he wouldn't really be a toy you could ever play with. He's more a statue kind of thing. So that holds him back a little bit, but he looks awesome. All right, we're almost through. So that was 12. Number 11 is Death's Head.
Okay.
From Marvel Legends. This was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. I love this character. He's one of those obscure Marvel characters that you don't see him a whole lot. But I collected his comic book back when I was a kid, and I always wanted a toy of him because he looked super cool. They made a really cool toy of him in the 4-inch scale years ago, like 10 years ago now almost. And I'm like, well, they obviously are capable, and they thought he was popular enough to warrant a 4-inch figure, so I thought we'd probably get a 6-inch one any day now, and then it took 10 years. So we finally got him. He's awesome. I love him. So he's number 11. And so now I'm down to my top 10. So why don't we'll jump over to you now. So why don't you do your number 10?
All right, let me pull this list up. So traditionally, I've always been a DC fan, a supporter of the DC lines and everything. But we've had some problems with McFarlane. And, back when I started opening everything up, I'm like, the quality isn't there. And then he started improving them. So I kind of went back. And this is my only McFarlane figure to make the list this year, and this figure almost didn't make the list, but it is the DC McFarlane Multiverse Punchline figure. And I have been asking for a Punchline figure for at least a couple of years now.
Yeah.
It's an original creation by one of my favorite artists, Jorge Jimenez. And when they first released the screenshot of what it would look like, I was like, looks kind of butchy. Didn't look very nice. When I got it in hand, I was like, that's actually a lot better than it was. I think they could have made it a little better, and it's disappointing to see that, they're putting other products of Punchline out now, like statues that actually look better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, I'm glad I got her.
The statues always look good. Would you actually buy a statue of her?
I did think about it, and then I saw the price point and was like, no, I'm not paying that much money. Even I'm starting to become a little more frugal with what I spend my money on. But Punchline was number 10.
Yeah, I don't think any McFarlane toys made my list. There was a couple of DC figures I got this year. Like, we both had high hopes for Darkseid, but he ended up being a bit of a disappointment. I really liked the Frostbite Batman. He's up here on my shelf here too. He's got that cool frosty effect, which is unlike any other toy I've seen, but it is still, it's Batman made of ice. Anyway, my number 10 was the mutated Cobra Commander. who I expect we'll see higher up on your list. But this is the
Once a man.
Yeah, he was an exclusive. In the G.I. Joe animated movie, he gets turned into a snake, and he keeps saying, "I was once a man. I was once a man," and that's what the packaging calls him, the once a man Cobra Commander. That's a bit of a mouthful, so I just say mutated Cobra Commander. But yeah, he's a great figure. A look that I've wanted a toy of since that movie came out in like '86. So to finally get one all these years later, it's pretty cool, and it was really well done because not only did you get the main figure, but he had a swappable head and swappable hands, and he had a little mini version of his fully mutated self when he becomes a full snake. I love it, but probably not as much as you. So he's my number 10.
Okay, that's a solid pick.
All right,
we'll see if you're right coming up. So number 9 was sort of a last minute contender. So my birthday was on December 17th. It's about 2 weeks ago now, almost. And you had given me a Super 7 Ultimate Starscream.
Yeah.
For Christmas, you had also given me a Super 7 Ultimate Destro.
Yeah.
And I was thinking on who would make the list and how high they would be, and I had to rejig my list like 5 or 6 times easily.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a G.I. Joe heavy year, so the position of number 9 ended up going to Starscream, and I think that's because he's the first Transformer that I have since I sold all my Transformers. So like that was a hard figure to let go to, my G1 Starscream, and when I did that, this just brought it right back in. So Starscream Ultimate by Super 7 gets the number 9 spot.
Okay. Yeah, I really like those Super 7 Ultimate figures. I had a couple of them this year, but they didn't qualify for my list. Soundwave almost made it.
Yeah.
And in fact, so I was talking to my wife earlier today, and I kind of jokingly asked her, because I told her you were coming over to do our best of the year list, and she was like, "Oh, have fun." And I was like, "What were your favorite action figures of the year, honey?" And I kind of expected her to just say they're all stupid, or like she's not really into any of this sort of stuff. But to my surprise, she said, I really like that Ultimate Soundwave that you showed me the other day. She's like, "I like that he looks like he's a cartoon." And she also really liked the Anubis and Best.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Because, she has an interest in archaeology and all things Egypt and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, at least one of her favorite figures made my best of the year list. But anyway, my number 9 is my other figure from Four Horsemen Studios. It is Azahazar.
Yeah.
So Four Horsemen has their own original line of fantasy characters that they call Mythic Legions. It's kind of Dungeons and Dragons style. And I have a lot of them. When the series first came out, I was buying probably 4 or 5 figures from every wave. So I have some skeletons, I have some knights, I have some vampires, I have some orcs and some trolls. And they're too expensive, and I just don't have any attachment to the property because it is something new. There's no cartoon that I grew up with or anything. So I found I was spending all this money on these toys, and then when it came time to do my best of the year list, most of them didn't qualify because I was letting a shittier Spider-Man figure make my list instead of the really well-made Mythic Legions. And I'm kind of realizing more and more that the nostalgic ties to me are more important than a perfectly made action figure. But Azahazar may be one of the last Mythic Legions I ever buy, but I went out with a bang with this figure because he's kind of, I think they call him the ogre scale. So he's like 9 inches tall. Most of the figures are 6 inches. He's got a wired cloth-like tunic. He's got a ton of accessories. He's this big green demon guy with like 6 horns coming off of his head. He's just awesome. And I pre-ordered him ages ago, and it took like a year and a half for him to like come in. And I kept thinking, should I cancel this? Should I cancel it? But every time I looked at him, I'm like, I just couldn't bring myself to hit that cancel button. And when he finally arrived, he met my expectations. He was awesome. So that's why he's my number 9.
That's a solid pick.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 8. Now, I've spoken about this company a couple times in the last year or so. Jada Toys, traditionally the makers of like the little die-cast dinky cars or whatever, really stepped up and started making solid toys. One franchise they began to dabble in late 2023 was the Mega Man series, and that is one of my all-time favorite franchises, both in video game and like everything, pretty much. So they announced a wave of Mega Man figures, which dropped in 2024. I believe it would have been February because I was off work. You had to pick them up for me at the post office. This is the Jada Toys Iceman. Now, these figures are so basic, but they're cute and they're nostalgic, and they bring me right back to the original Mega Man game, playing that when I was 5 years old, and like since then they've released another wave. They have teased a wave 3. So like I'm all in on this, and I'm gonna support whatever they do because I find the price point for their toys is incredible, and they're good figures. Like they put the time and quality in these figures. So Iceman was always one of my favorite robot masters, let's call him.
What is he like? I'm going to put in pictures for everybody to see, but I don't know what Iceman looks like. Which one is he?
He's like the little I don't think you can say Eskimo anymore, but he's like the Inuit indigenous looking character. Yeah, he's got a snowsuit with a hood, and he would always blow ice at you. He's just so basic, and it's lovely to see this. They can open so many doors with this franchise. That's going to be more for our next video, but coming in on number 8 is Jada Toys Iceman.
Yeah, I didn't really grow up with Mega Man. I always did like the concept of them because the characters were small and cute and simple. I like because they have names like Bomb Man and Mega Man. They're simple little things. I could see myself maybe getting into it too, but because I'm at a point where I'm trying to rein in my collecting, I'm not going to try and branch out to things that I don't really have a strong attachment for. But I went out to our local comic book shop for Boxing Day. They have their annual buy 2, get a third thing of equal or lesser value free.
Giant Robot Comics.
Yeah, so I went to Giant Robot with my brother on Boxing Day. I go every year with him, and there was nothing I was really looking for, but I just wanted to take advantage of the sale anyway. And he had some of those Mega Man figures, and I was considering it. I'm like, I could buy 2, get 1 free, but then I'm like, but still, even though they're cheap, they're like $30 or something. It's still like, well, I'm dropping $60 or $70 on things that I don't really need. So I ended up not getting them. But I get why you're into them. They look cool.
And again, this is going to be spoken about on our next video, but like they're only putting out 3 a wave. Like you can pretty much get any man probably above 40s to go all in on these toy lines that grew up with Mega Man, and you have an opportunity to put more than 3 out per wave. And they like from announcement to turnaround, oh god, it was almost 7 months. So wave 2 was just released probably about 2 months ago, and they haven't even announced the 3rd wave yet. They've teased it at San Diego Comic-Con, but like start getting it together, guys. Like you can just pump out money, and the waves are selling out consistently, and they're very rarely restocking them. So they were sold out for months on Big Bad Toy Store, and then they put up like Mega Man, I think, was the first one to sell out, and he went back up, and then he was out of order for about 8 months. So like there's a market for this.
And I think they look like the type of characters that would probably share a lot of the same tooling.
Yes.
So maybe they can start, decreasing those wait times as they start reusing arms and legs and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, my number 8 is Jinx from G.I. Joe Classified. And to be honest, I'm a little surprised that she's this far back on the list because Jinx is one of my favorite G.I. Joe characters. And this is a really nice figure of her because in the original figure that I had as a kid, she only had her red ninja mask on, which I liked. But in the cartoon, she was unmasked and you saw her face all the time. And there was a bit of a disconnect. Like I kind of either wish she wore the mask in the cartoon or maybe didn't have the mask in the toy. So this toy is the first time we get both versions. They have made toys in the past since the original one where she does have her mask off and everything, But yeah, this is the first time you can swap out for a masked or unmasked head. Her outfit is basically the same as the one I had as a kid, except there's some improvements. She's got this really cool kind of like lotus flower tattoo down one of her arms. So yeah, I just always loved this character. And a couple of years ago, Zorana was the top of my list. And I kind of hold these guys, they're neck and neck for favorites. So the fact that Jinx is kind of so far back at number 8 just speaks to some of the other really great figures that I got this year. So yeah, there you
go. Okay, that's an honorable mention for me, which is also surprising because I really do enjoy ninjas.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 7, we're gonna start off with the G.I. Joe Classified Road Pig. Now, when he came out, I didn't really see him making my best of list. He's still in his box. Didn't get any shelving for Christmas, so looks like I'm on my own for that until I can get some more shelving. But I looked at him, and when I handled your figure, when we talked about him, I was like, you know what? This is actually a really cool figure. I did some research on him after I left that night, and like you were explaining the whole dual personality thing, and I love that head that makes him look crazy. And like all the stuff he comes with.
He's coming with a dog.
Yeah.
Alternate head, alternate mask, alternate weapons, like shield, like lots of stuff.
Yeah, he took up number 7.
Yeah, he's an awesome figure. Fully loaded. Totally worth the deluxe price point. Yeah, very cool. My number 7 is Thulsa Doom from Super 7's Conan Ultimate line. And I didn't necessarily expect to like this figure as much as I did. But in the past year or so, I've become even more of a Conan fan than I ever was before. I always liked the movies, and I liked the idea of Conan, and I read all the modern Conan comic books, but I hadn't really read any of the old Marvel run from the 70s and 80s, and I'd never read any of the original Robert E. Howard books. But in this past year, I've been reading, I bought the complete collection. I've read about half of it so far, plus I've been buying a bunch of the old Marvel stuff. So I'm becoming an even more of a Conan fan than I ever was.
Plus, your friend wrote a book similar, like not Conan, but
yeah. So my friend Matt, he wrote a book in the Conan genre, and he's a huge Conan fan. And so I bought his book to support him, and I think in reading it, it kind of ignited that my curiosity to go check it out. And actually, I haven't even read it yet, but a week or two ago, I bought the Savage Sword of Conan magazine, issue 6. Which was the final one in a series that Titan Books was publishing. Anyway, Matt got a Conan story in there. So it's just a text story because it's an anthology book. So there's some comic strips and some text. So I think that was kind of his dream, was to actually write Conan, because he's been writing Conan-ish. But yeah, now he wrote Conan. So
that's super cool.
Very cool. So yeah, Thulsa Doom is the villain from the first live-action Conan movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was played by James Earl Jones. They did a figure of him a year or two ago, and I didn't buy it, and I regretted missing out on it. But then they did this version, which is very similar, but it's an improvement. The first one had this big rubber overcoat on that hindered the movement. This one instead has a soft goods cape that's wired, so you can pose it. He's got a nicer paint job. Instead of being like all black, he's got a lot more kind of silver and gold accents and stuff. And the face sculpt looks really nice. I'm just a fan of the Super 7 kind of form factor anyway that they carried over from Masters of the Universe. Just the size of those figures. They're not the most posable figures or anything, but they look nice. And Thulsa Doom really looks great. So yeah, he's my number 7.
All right, jumping ahead to number 6, we've got another G.I. Joe classified figure. And I know he wasn't one of your favorites, but number 6 is going to the classified Iron Grenadier figure. I know you had some issues with it, that it wasn't...
Well, I like it a lot.
It's a nice figure, and for me, I'm all about that clean military-style uniform, so that was a big one for me. He did move down on the list. He did get replaced by someone else who I had to think about a little more. So yeah, you'll find out coming up. But number 6 went to the Iron Grenadier. Love
Okay.
the colors. Love the helmet. He's sort of got this Kylo Ren looking thing going on with his mask, and just a really nice, clean figure.
Yeah, and I did really like it. It's not that I had problems with the figure. I just think
They could have done
he's
better.
he's a smidge short, I find. And I also the fact that he's got a removable helmet is cool, but I wish it snapped in place a little firmer. Have you opened yours up, or have you only handled mine so far?
I've only handled yours.
Yeah, that second helmet, like it kind of rattles around, like it slides off him very easily. So I wish that locked in place a little bit better. Um, but otherwise, he's a great figure. It's just I have a lot of Cobra Troopers. Like I had to cut the Techno Viper from my best of the year list. I had to cut the Snow Serpent. Yeah. Like these were great figures. But I think sometimes these troop builder characters, you have less of a personal connection with them than, say, a character like Cobra Commander, who is an individual. And so I think that's why the troopers didn't really make my list this year. But anyway. Okay, so my number 6 was, and this is such a cool figure, it could have been higher, but it was Kodos from Super 7's. So this is another Super 7 Ultimate figure. Yeah. This is from their Simpsons line, which is now dead. Mm-hmm. So if I was a collector of this line, I'd probably be pretty pissed because I think they only got 4, maybe 5 waves out. Yeah. So they just scratched the surface of all the Simpsons characters. And I'm not really a big Simpsons guy. Like I haven't watched the seasons for decades, really. I liked it when it first came out, and I'm a casual fan. Like I wouldn't really want a Bart or a Homer figure necessarily, but Kang and Kodos are just so cool looking, those big slimy aliens. And yeah, so they put out these figures, and they're massive, like compared to the other Ultimate figures, because these guys are just scale with the other Ultimate figures who are the 7-8 inch figures. So yeah, these guys are just really big. It was hard to pick one over the other because they're both very similar. But I think just as far as the head sculpts go, Kodos won out for me. Yeah, my wife bought me these for my birthday, I think it was. Although I don't know, I think it was later in the year than that because my birthday's in January. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was Valentine's Day or something, but that's not much later either. Anyway, whatever she got them for me for, they're very cool. I was very stoked that she got them. They're both super cool. They look really impressive on the shelf. They're like, like signature pieces. People walk into this room and they just see a whole bunch of shit. But things like Snake Mountain here, and like my G.I. Joe helicopter, and my Kang and Kodos. They're big. They draw your eye. So yeah, awesome figure. So Kodos is my number 6.
It's a solid pick. I'm a fan. Rounding off number 5, we also have another G.I. Joe classified figure. Again, I know you have your thoughts on like nameless characters, but for me, it was the G.I. Joe classified Halo jumper, the high altitude, low opening figure. And I know you said he was kind of like what Crazy Leg should look like. Ripcord, sorry. What Ripcord should look like. And he was the one that beat out the Iron Grenadier. So even looking at him, I don't have the same attachment as you do to like some of the character Joes, but this guy, like I love the outfit. Love everything they did with it. The 2 heads, everything. Just the accessories are cool. The parachute, top tier.
Yeah, he was great. Those 60th anniversary figures that Hasbro put out this year, there were 4 of them, and they were all really nice figures. It's just, they're generic. They don't have a name for the character because they're just supposed to be infantrymen, marine diver and stuff. They're cool, and they're an homage to the nameless G.I. Joes of the 60s. So yeah, but if we were just looking objectively and not taking nostalgia into account or anything, I think that is an awesome figure. I love his visor and his breather and his backpack and all of his gear. He's got that painted camo face. It's very, very cool. It's just, those guys didn't really have a chance for me because I'm such a nostalgia-fueled guy.
No, I get that.
Yeah. All right, so that was number 5 for you. So my number 5 is my first toy. I guess my only one on my list from Jada Toys. This is Dalsum from their Street Fighter line. Now, this was another figure I knew as soon as I got him and I had him in hand and I was playing with him. I'm like, this is so cool. My first Street Fighter figure I got last year was Chun-Li.
Yes.
And she was so cool. She handled so well. She's fun. She's playable. She's got accessories and extra head and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not like a huge Street Fighter fan because I'm just not a big video game guy in general. But I knew after I got Chun-Li that I was going to have to get a few more of these figures.
Yeah.
Dalston was the only one I really had a chance to get. I was really hoping to get Cammy, but I never had a chance to get her before the end of the year. But Dalston is incredible. He's got the stretchy arms and the stretchy legs. He's a lot of fun. So yeah, he's my number 5.
Okay. My number 4 is actually your number 5. So Jada Toys Dalston.
Okay.
I thought the Chun-Li was cool. And I remember talking off camera with you about how I used to play Street Fighter, and I grew up with, because I'm a video gamer. Well, not as much anymore, but I was a video gamer. And I just remember playing Street Fighter, and, you know, Jada Toys have been doing such a bang-up job of these toys that I decided to go all in. And I remember saying to you that this is dangerous because they have so much potential with the Street Fighter franchise. And Dalston, yeah, he's such a good figure. Like, I love the extendo arms, the extended legs, like the flexibility of this guy. He is such a good character. And they've announced so many more Street Fighter characters since then. So they're really putting a lot of effort into this toy line, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, and I'm not going to buy too many more of them. At least I'm not planning to. But no matter who your favorite character in Street Fighter was, whether it was Blanka or Cammy or whoever, I think it's almost undeniable that Dalston would almost have to be the best figure.
Yeah.
That bendy arm and leg thing is just such a unique feature. Like, the other characters are probably going to give them all blast effects to represent their, Haroukens and all that sort of stuff. But that's just not as cool as being able to interchange his arms and legs. Because you can give him one long arm and one long leg, and they give you a little clear display stand so you can display him with his leg up, kicking and everything. Yeah, it's so cool. You can even kind of fold his legs up, so he's kind of doing that like
yoga
pose he does. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, so my number 4 is G.I. Joe Classified Retro Card Duke.
Okay.
Now, you were telling me just when you came in the door, you didn't have a chance to watch the video I posted earlier today.
That's correct.
But it really came down to, I really struggled in that video whether Duke or Starduster was going to move ahead on my list.
I remember seeing that because I watched the video previous to that one last night, knowing we were going to be talking about this tonight.
Right.
That's been out for about 8 days now, but it's been a hectic week with Christmas and whatever. So
because I've had Duke for a while, and he looks great. And I didn't necessarily even love Duke when I was a kid. He was never one of my favorite characters. But over the years, I have come to appreciate him more, and he is kind of the face of G.I. Joe. Because Snake Eyes, you could say, is the face of G.I. Joe, but he doesn't really have a face, and he doesn't really have a voice. So Duke is kind of the face and the voice of G.I. Joe. And I think the Retro Card Duke is the best Duke that's ever been made in any format. So I love it. But then they took almost the exact same figure and repainted it into Starduster. Now, Starduster isn't as important a character, but that's kind of what I like about him. I like the obscure, weird characters. Yep. So not only is he the same figure, but he's got that uniqueness factor that Duke doesn't have. Plus, he has a jetpack that Duke doesn't have. So it was like, it's like. So I was really wrestling with which one was going to advance. But ultimately, Duke, being the star that he is,
Cole Hauser stole the show.
Sure. Yeah, he. Is it
or is it Conrad?
Conrad, yeah, because Cole Hauser's an actor.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like,
cut.
Maybe he just thinks Duke looks like Cole Hauser, but yeah,
Conrad.
So yeah, cool figure, and so he's my number 4.
All right. Going back to G.I. Joe Classified, coming in at a strong number 3, and this was a tough decision, was Once a Man Cobra Commander. Now, I remember watching this cartoon as a kid.
Yep.
When it first came out, 1987, 88,
86 was
86. Okay, so not when it first came out, but I was around 5 or 6 when.
Yeah.
So it was 87, 88. And I just remember loving the Cobra Commander is one of my all-time favorite figures and characters, and I just remember loving seeing that whole Snake Society kind of arc and how he briefly turned into a good guy. And anyways, this figure was incredible. I love the fact that they gave him a shattered mask, so he can look at. He has some cool accessories, and he even came with that little snake, and that's probably what gave him the number 3 spot. Yeah. That's it. That's number 3.
Yep, he's a great figure. And my number 3 is also a G.I. Joe classified figure that we've already talked about because he was your number 6 or 7, but Road Pig. Mm-hmm. I love that Road Pig figure. So he is my favorite G.I. Joe figure of the year, which is saying a lot because there were so many good G.I. Joe figures this year, as your list is evidence of. So many great figures. But when I stack them all up, Road Pig, it's just not only is he a character that I loved as a kid, but he just got so many great accessories. He's a toy that's faithful to the original toy, but they also added some stuff. Like he's got new tattoos. Mm-hmm. I like that he's got a dog that he never had before. Like all the changes they made, I feel are improvements. So yeah, I love Road Pig. He's my number 3.
All right. So this is the character number 2 that beat out Once a Man Cobra Commander, and it just goes to show that bigger is not always better, and it's going back to a Jada Toys Mega Man figure, and it is going to be Jada Toys Cut Man figure. So he's the little red
scissor guy, right?
Yeah, the guy with the scissors on his head. Again, these characters are so minimalist and basic. Mm-hmm. They only come with one accessory, which is the attack and an extra head. It's a solid figure, and this brings me back to Mega Man, and he was always one of my favorite Robot Masters.
Yeah.
He's cute, he's small, he's simple, and
I imagine the articulation's nice with these guys.
The articulation is very nice.
Yeah.
But I was shocked that something so small could beat out, arguably one of the better figures of the year. And I tossed and turned on this decision for a couple of days, and I think it's just how basic that figure is that really stole the show for me. And again, like you've mentioned, it comes down to nostalgia, and Mega Man is one of my favorite franchises.
And even though none of my simple figures made it through to my best of the year list, I did comment in my elimination videos that you don't need to have the most articulation to be the best. Kind of like what I said with my King Ghidorah. One of the reasons why he didn't make higher on the list is because he's just kind of too articulated.
Yeah.
I really like the McFarlane Superpowers collection. Mm-hmm. I really like Super 7's reaction figures. Some of those figures are really great, and they maybe could have made the list, but it's just there were so many other great figures this year. So my number 2, this is another one that as soon as I got it, I knew it was going to be on my list, and I knew it was going to be high on my list. But this is what I think they call the 1200 degrees Celsius Godzilla, the melting Godzilla figure. I thought it was super cool when I first saw it go up for pre-order. I ordered it. I got it, I think, relatively early in the year, maybe the first half at least. I'm glad I did because he was in a wave of 2 with him and Destroya, which were both great figures. They sold out everywhere. They have since reissued Destroya, so people that missed out can get him. But my understanding is that they're not going to reissue 1200 Degree Godzilla because Toho Studios, that they need the permission from, decided they thought the figure was too gross or too graphic. So they aren't letting Super 7 reissue it. I don't know if that's fact or not. I think I've just heard other YouTubers say that know more than I do. But they haven't reissued him. And so he's starting to go for quite a bit more on the secondary market. And which rightfully so, because he's awesome. So if you missed out on him the first time, you might want to grab him now because he might not get any cheaper. So this might be the best time to get him. But yeah, he's just super cool. He's got translucent parts. He's got one arm as a full bone. He's got one head that's half melted flesh and half skull, and then the other one is a fully skull head. I just thought it was very, very cool. And I have so many Godzillas in my collection now.
You can see him directly behind Mike to the right here,
Yeah,
right next to the orange
you
translation.
probably can't make him up, but I'll put in a picture anyway so you guys can see him. But yeah, it's just I still buy a lot of regular Godzilla figures, just gray Godzillas. But in order for it to really stand out for me now, I kind of need something a little flashier. Like I got the Godzilla -1 figure this year as well, which was also awesome. But he was just a little too standard Godzilla to make my best of the year list at this point. So yeah, he didn't make it, but the other two weirder, translucent, melty one, they did. So yeah, he's my number 2 figure. I think he's awesome. So
ready for the number 1 spot?
I am.
Okay. So I jumped onto the classified line late. Yeah. I think it was like mid 2022 by that point. So they had already been out for 2.5 years.
Okay.
This is a figure that I wanted ever since I started collecting it. Shouldn't come as a surprise. It is the G.I. Joe Classified retro carded Cobra Commander. When I looked at this figure, I can just hear Christopher Latta in my head. There's also the voice of Starscream, again, one of my favorite Transformers. I can just hear that voice in my head when I look at that figure. And I love the reflective mask. Like, I think that just gave it the nudge into first place. It's a basic character. I was upset that I didn't get him with the HISS tank, like the Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
And you said no, they're probably going to release like the retro card one, so don't go making stupid eBay purchases on this figure, because I had done that before and paid for it. But this figure, like, that is 100% my childhood right there. Like, G.I. Joe. I came into it late as a kid. So I was only born in 82, so I didn't really have a lot of friends growing up because we moved around quite a bit. My dad was in the Army, so it was difficult to find friends that had the same type of interests in toys. And of course, my dad was an Army man, so I always was drawn towards G.I. Joe figures. And I thought they were kind of stupid when I outgrew them, and then I'm like, you know what? They aren't, and I appreciate the attention to detail that they're putting in these. And Cobra Commander retro card gets that number 1 spot for me.
I figured he would be for you, because they released basically the same figure as an exclusive the year prior. Came with the HISS tank. You didn't get the HISS tank, so you were going to go on eBay and buy him. I said, this figure is so good, they're absolutely going to release it again in a new paint
100%.
job. And thankfully, they didn't do anything too drastic to the paint job. It's basically the same. The things they changed are improvements from the other one, because they gave him that chrome reflective mask that the previous one didn't have, and that really is great. I think, like Duke, this retro carded Cobra Commander is probably the best Cobra Commander figure ever released in any format. And there have been dozens of Cobra Commanders over the years. But this one just captures the look of the toy, of the cartoon, of everything you want it to capture, with still a little bit of a modern twist and everything. I think he's great.
I'll tell you how great. I bought him 3 times. Well, I bought him once for myself. He's out of the package. I bought one for my friend Nick for doing my website for me for my new business adventure here in the new year. And I bought myself another one that I'm going to leave in the card. And that's how good of a figure it was. So
okay. I was going to say buying 3's a little nuts, but one of them was a gift, so that's fine.
Exactly.
So to have one carded and one open, I get it. It's your favorite toy. Sure. All right, so my number 1, I don't think you'd be able to guess what it is.
Give me a line.
I'll just tell you, because you won't guess it, and it's cheat. It's kind of a cop out.
Am I going to disagree with this choice?
I don't see
how's it a cop out.
I don't see how you could disagree with me, but it wouldn't be your favorite toy either. For Christmas, my wife bought me a Funko Pop Pop Yourself is what they call it, where you get a custom action figure of yourself.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted an action figure of myself. The only problem is I don't really feel I have like an iconic look. I've looked when they first did these Funko Pop things, and Hasbro did one recently too, where you could get a head only, so you could get your own head scanned or whatever, and then they would put it on a stormtrooper body, so it wasn't like your full body or anything. And I looked at it, but I'm like, well, do I do it with a beard? Do I do it clean shaven? Do I do it with short hair? Do I do it with longer, curlier hair? I've only been wearing glasses for about 3 years, like so I'm still getting used to that being my regular face. Like, do I give him glasses? Do I not? And I was just like, I can't really make one that looks like me. Mm-hmm. But anyway, my wife Vanessa got me a pack where it's me, her, and our dog and our cat all together in one box. And my number one toy of the year is my wife Vanessa as a Funko Pop, because I think it captures her look better than it captures mine, just because the hairstyle, she's got kind of a leopard print sweater in the toy, which is what she wears a lot. She likes leopard print. She has multiple leopard print shirts and jackets. She's carrying her phone, which is my wife cannot put her phone down. And yeah. Anyway, not only it was a great gift, and it was a surprise because I didn't ask for it. I didn't know it was coming. I adore my wife. Now I have a little collectible of her. So yeah, the fact that a Funko Pop is topping my list is kind of blasphemy. I know.
Yeah, because I would argue that both you and I say they're not action figures.
Yes, so it is a bit of a long shot, but I don't buy enough Funko Pops to do a separate list. Years ago, I actually did do a separate top 10 Funko Pops list, but I think this year I probably only bought 5 Funko Pops in total. So yeah, how could I not put her on the top of my list? So my wife Vanessa, and I guarantee you I'm the only YouTuber that will have this toy as my number one. So anyway, top 10.
Hey, we did it.
High five. All right, well, let's wrap this one up. We already went pretty long. We're at about an hour. So we'll wrap this up, and then we'll shoot another video to talk about our year-end wrap-up. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave us comments, especially for these type of videos. We really want to hear about your top 10. So give us your top 10 below. Or, is there any that you think we should have put on there? And don't rag on me about putting my wife on here. Whatever. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so we appreciate your comments. So please do that. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
Keep collecting.